Welcome to the Conceive, Believe, and Achieve podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Geris. Today's guest, Jesse Richardson from Matador BJJ. What else is the club called? Sorry?
Mixed martial arts.
Mixed martial arts. Man, it's everything. Kicking ass and taking names, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Every day.
We've known for each other for a while now.
Yeah. Probably, I don't know, 20 years maybe.
20 years, yeah. And the jiu-jitsu community is small.
Yeah, it is very small.
Yeah, we were just talking before about a couple of the guys that we know, who we've trained with. It's, like I said, small world.
Yeah.
I brought you on the podcast, one, because you are a black belt under Sylvio Behring, the same as myself.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd have a conversation between black belts.
Absolutely.
First, I'm going to ask you is, how did you get into jiu-jitsu first?
Well, my martial arts journey started when I was 11, and I think the real realization was basically back in '93. That's when I started. UFC came out, and I saw that obviously there was some holes in the game. I had studied, I started with kickboxing, and then I got into some Muay Thai and some different disciplines of martial arts with Kung Fu, Long Yin Kung Fu, Seven Star Praying Mantis, Choi Li Fat, did a lot of different stuff. Mm-hmm. And I always kind of just... I had always asked my sifu and my instructors, what happens if we get to the ground? What's going to happen here? Like, we saw the UFC, exactly what Hoist did to everybody. And, it was like, then before that. And I just thought, I can't accept that answer. Mm-hmm. I started training judo, and I started training, grappling. I wasn't really doing jiu-jitsu with the kimono at the time. And then I guess, about that time I met Master Marcosaurus out of Vancouver. Mm-hmm. Very high level, very, very highly regarded Carlson Gracie Black Belt. Mm-hmm. And started training with him, and I've been training ever since. So
nice.
Yeah.
I mean, the UFC changed everything. Yeah. Before the UFC, and I don't think anybody, maybe the younger generation has no idea, but the older people know, you had martial arts operating in silos. Who was the best art in use? It was just maybe written about, maybe talked about, but there was no ground to really prove what was the best martial art and I think the UFC, what it did for everybody was, you know what, okay, let's put it all together, let's see who has, and I don't mean the best, but most
effective, I guess. Efficient, effective, yeah.
That's probably it, yeah. It escaped my words. That's too many knocks to the head myself.
Yeah, been there.
Yeah, so, and you got involved in that. Was there a certain fighter that you kind of liked watching or emulated back then?
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, it was, for me, I really liked the style of Ken Shamrock. He was one of my favorite, actually. And we kind of became friends a little bit years down the road, which was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Before I had moved out here to train with Professor Shaw Franco under Master Sylvio Behring, I was originally going to go out there. I was living back in Edmonton, Alberta. That's where I'm from originally.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to go to Lions Den. For me, that was a big thing. Just because of the style, I like the shoe wrestling stuff, and I liked he kind of was emulating what I kind of wanted to be or envisioned myself to be. And that was probably the time was one of my favorite. And then obviously Hoist as well, right? But I didn't understand jiu-jitsu the way I start to understand it now, even after 30 years, right? But,
yeah. For those of you guys that don't know, Ken Shamrock, he is one of the guys, one of the godfathers of MMA. Mm. Him and his brother helped put it on the map. I don't know if you know, I've done podcasts with Frank.
Okay.
I've had him on the show. I got to know him quite well years and years ago. He did a couple seminars for me, and then I've stayed in contact with him. But man, he's got a backstory. Yeah, and I don't mean to plug that right now, but you got to listen to it, man. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I think after I had kind of known about Ken, then I started to understand Frank, and man, he's amazing individual. So I'm definitely gonna listen to that for sure.
Yeah, and just his his philosophy on everything it's pretty cool. Just listening to him, he's an interesting character. But just listening to him and hearing his backstory, hearing everything he's doing now, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, take a listen to it. Let's get back to you though. Jiu-jitsu. You watching the UFC. How old are you about then? And where do you said you started off with a different martial art, not jiu-jitsu right away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started off with kickboxing, Chinese kickboxing under Sifu Ed Bruno. Yeah. It was funny. I trained for a long time, and then I just kind of, one day I showed up at the dojo and it was shut down, and it was pretty disheartening. And the next day I went and found another place to train. I was, at the time, you know, it wasn't about UFC. It was before that. It was when I was younger, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And just the martial arts was one of those things that I tell my students and I tell everybody, it's a sanctuary. You know, you have everybody has stories and has backstories and demons in their lives and, you know, different ways to deal with it. And I think that was one of the places, being in the dojo, that, you know, being on the mats is, you know, it forces you to live in the moment. Especially jiu-jitsu, somebody trying to choke you out or break your stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and it just really kind of it's therapeutic for sure, 100%.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people that are foreign to or the fighting game would understand that it's therapeutic.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, you're having a bad day, you go to jiu-jitsu, you go to whatever athletic, the endorphins, that rush comes to you and you really enjoy it. I mean, I can't run, and I never would try. I'm 250 pounds, probably more now, but you ain't going to see me run anywhere. Yeah. So, you know, rolling on the ground is you know, that's what I like. I mean, it's my journey's a little different. Of course, I got into wrestling first, and then jiu-jitsu. You know, I didn't like the fact that, okay, what happens in my world if I go to my back, because wrestlers don't go to their back. They hate it, right?
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, getting into policing, I start to realize that, hey, you know, I'm not going to be in control of every situation, because I might be in a fight in a, you know, in somebody's apartment, and all of a sudden I trip over something, and then I got to find myself on my back. Well, if I'm on my back and I've never been there before, I'm in trouble. Yeah. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. I'm going to do, you know, do some striking as well, because I'm going to need that to keep myself safe. So for me, it was like, you know, not just therapeutic, but it was also to keep my ass safe.
Yeah, for sure. That's go home at the end of the day, right? That's the number one job, for sure.
Yeah, and that's where I met you. You, I think it was the first time we met each other at the police college.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of friends that are in the policing services and all the first responders, you know, and have the opportunity to be able to, you know, use my skills and my knowledge to help people, you know, the younger guys that don't train or is just starting to train, and work with the guys that I've trained with for many years to try to keep honing the knowledge and, you know, keep everybody safe, right? I think that my job as a professor and what I've chosen in my life is to help people, you know, because, you know, martial arts helped me and it saved my life. And, you know, just little things like you just said, you know, you want to go home at the end of the day. And if learning that little stuff on being on your back is going to do that, then, you know, that's the main point.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your first experience with the jiu-jitsu. So you're going into the dojo, you get on the mat, and how is that for you? Like, what's going through your mind as you're you remember back that far back?
I do, actually, and it's funny. I used to train with this guy. We both got our black belts together in a Chinese kung fu system. Trent Turner was a good friend of mine, and we used to go to the Y and do some training and whatnot. And I was training judo, he was training judo, and then he kind of left. He was gone for a little while, and I kept training. And then all of a sudden he came back, and started to play around a little bit of randori with the judoka, and all of a sudden get on the ground, and I just start getting twisted up. Oh my God, it was so, you know, of course we do nuwaza in judo, but with the jiu-jitsu element to it, it was a different level. And that was my first experience with jiu-jitsu, to really see, oh my God, you know, it's different with a gi, kimono, jiu-jitsu, you know, like if you're gi or no gi, but to be in that experience and feel that vulnerable, that's when I kind of got scared. I always thought I was a tough guy, you know, been through a lot of stuff in my life, and avoided a lot of situations, avoided a lot of bad paths that I could have taken. And when that had happened to me, that was it. I just said, I put on a white belt. I had a couple different black belts in different systems, and put on a white belt, emptied my glass, and went in with open arms to it.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I guess it's pretty intimidating you're a big guy, right? You get into that room, and all of a sudden somebody's turning you into a pretzel, and you're kind of like, what's going on, man? Like, it's not supposed to be happening, especially when you have that. And I think we have, like, you know, when you're a big guy, you have that kind of attitude where, like, you're you know, nobody's going to screw with you just because of that. Yeah. And you have that. I worked with bouncers back in the day. You know, I used to bounce all the time, and the big guys that used to, you know, stick needles in their asses. You know, those guys would get out and they would look tough, but the minute they would get, you know, challenged, boom, they would get their ass put. They didn't want to train. It was that false sense of I guess security. You know what? Hey, I'm a big guy. You're not going to touch me.
Yeah.
But you know, a big guy with a little bit of training in jiu-jitsu, man, watch out.
Yeah, that's right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like I remember having big guys at the one particular bar I was at, and he just wanted to challenge me. But this was because of the wrestling. It wasn't. I didn't do jiu-jitsu at that time.
Okay.
And he was pushing me around. So all I did was start doing some wrestling stuff, and boom, he's on the ground. He's like, "How the hell did you do that? I'm bigger than you." I'm like. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's an equalizer.
Yeah.
That's what jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and stuff like that does.
Yeah.
It's an equalizer. You know, you say, so you start off going there, and there's a belt system that goes along with the jiu-jitsu too.
Yeah.
That was foreign to me. I had no idea because I've never been in martial arts. You had already been there. So when you're in jiu-jitsu, when you start off, can you just describe the belt level system for the viewers for us?
Yep. Yeah. So you start off as a white belt, obviously. I mean, that's kind of the beginning. And through jiu-jitsu, it depends on who is or what lineage you're under. I mean, there's a lot of different things. Usually you go 4 stripes. It basically is just giving a incentive or a recognition of kind of where you're at and how long you've trained for. And then you go to blue belt, fascia azul. After that, same thing, 4 stripes. You get to there, and then fascia roxa, purple belt, and then fascia marron, brown belt, and then after that time, and you're looking at probably close to 10 years for getting a black belt jiu-jitsu, and then fascia preta, and then I guess at the end of the day, you think, oh, I reach a black belt. It's just the beginning. Yeah, it's just the beginning because that bullseye is firmly on your back now, and it's another level for sure.
Let's talk about the bullseye because I've experienced that. When I got onto actually, I got my black belt at your gym.
Yeah. Right.
When Master Behring was there.
Yeah.
So thank you for inviting me there when he was there, and thank you for Master Behring for actually blessing me with that. Yeah. But that target on your back, man, I didn't realize it was there. I remember but going through the belt system and always wanting to attack the purple belt, the blue belt, the brown belt. And then all of a sudden I'm the black belt. And that target on your back, everybody wants to destroy you. Yeah. Tell me about how that, I know in my experience, what is your experience like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's every day. I will disclose my age. I'm 51 years old, and I'm training all the time. I lost sound on my thing.
Just pull that there.
Oh, there we go. I'm 51 years old, and I train every day. I just came from the gym now, just training and trying to keep in good shape and cardio-wise, and then at night I'll train with my students every day. So, obviously you got guys that have come in, and the wealth of knowledge and the way that people train, we kind of grew up in the dungeon where we had to kind of help to evolve everything. And, you see now people can go on YouTube and they can watch all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah. And I mean, it's great. And some people can really take to that. But, with that actual advantage, more information that we had, like I remember when Master Sylvio would come to Professor Shaw's every 6 months, he would give us a spoonful of information, and then we just basically turned into a lab. We had a genius like Professor Shaw there, and Macaquinho, Justin, Lofi, Marco, like all these guys that are my brothers, and just turn into a lab, and we would just help it to evolve, and then he would come back another spoonful, and now guys, we can go on the phone right now and look at C guard, X guard, all kinds of crazy stuff, and then I think through that you have geniuses like John Danaher and these guys like Eddie Bravo that are revolutionized martial arts and in the sport for sure 100%, and yeah, it's just been such a. It's so cool to see the art grow. Like for me, it's more about the art than the sport, but also the sport because it brings recognition to what we do every day. So
yeah, you're mentioning some names and as you're talking about those names, I'm like, yeah, okay, I haven't heard that name in a while, and I'm pinning the face to it. And Shaw Franco, I remember going down to the basement and training there sometimes, and just like, but it was exactly what it was. It was before YouTube. It was before all this stuff. And you had to, if you had to have, somebody fly in and teach you that was an expert. I remember my dad when, he was coaching wrestling, sometimes he'd order like videotapes, like the VHS tapes, instructionals that you get. And those were expensive back then too, right? We didn't even have those for jiu-jitsu because that hadn't evolved to that either. So it was flying somebody over to learn.
Yeah.
but then you honed what you learned. Like you were like, this is going to be mine. I'm going to make this mine, and then I'm going to turn it over to the students.
That's it. Yeah, well, my best friend, he's a professor now in black belt, like, I don't know, 6th, 7th degree black belt in karate as well, Frank Culture. He was like that. He still is to this day, you know. He has piles and files, we call them, and he has so many VHS tapes and everything, like libraries of it, you know, and he'll still go back and reference that stuff because, you know, again, it's evolved. It's like a evolution. You know, it goes back and then it gets to the point where it gets so complicated and then it goes back to the basics again. So, yeah, that's it. Exactly. That was like sitting there watching VHS tape, rewind, okay, rewind. Yeah. So.
Ridiculous. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And you think about everything, how we've progressed and you know, man, and then now with the competitions, right? We probably had not even a handful of competitions back then. And now, because I remember they had the Ontario, what was it, where they pitted people against each other. Like, I remember Scott Lewis was going against somebody else. And then GSP actually showed up to one and he was fighting somebody. That was like once every year. And now we have jiu-jitsu tournaments almost week.
I would say every couple of weeks now, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember Jocelyn's, like Professor Jeff Jocelyn. Him and his father would do his tournament every year, and that was
huge.
A staple, for sure. And then there was the showdown, like Joe Ferrero would do a showdown show. I remember that. Yeah. And, you know, and then Professor Fernando Zulake of his gym, you know, he started to do Ontario Open was a big thing, and now it's become such a huge thing. There's organizations all over the world coming here doing tournaments, so which is amazing because I remember when I started competing, I did a couple tournaments here, and then I started flying to Brazil. And I was in Brazil. I would go 2 months every year, and I would compete there a couple tournaments, and then, you know, I stayed a little longer, and then I lived there for 1 year, and just competed as much as I could, because back then the World Championships weren't in the U.S. They were all done in Brazil. So if you wanted to fight in the World Championships, you had to go there, right? Yeah. And I mean, to me, that's the most authentic experience. But for the students now, and you know, people that are disciplined, their discipline is jiu-jitsu, they have such a huge advantage of being able to compete and keep crafting honing their craft, you know. So it's great.
Yeah. So let's tell me a little bit about your experience in Brazil. I mean, that's got to be some unique experience. Don't get into X-rated stuff.
No, I am married, so I won't say anything about that. You know, I think the first time I went back was 2003. Yeah. And you know, it was me and Fernando and Monkey and Pinky. I don't know if you remember Pinky, John Pinky. He was amazing as well. Yeah. Just the whole team. We went down there and trained at Hunter Academy with Professor Maurição. God bless his soul. He's passed away since. But, you know, it was those experiences that were, you know, life-changing. And, you know, you go down there, and the one thing that I found, you know, I thought our jiu-jitsu was good here. You know, Master, come here. Okay, we have good. Because the level back in Alberta, the den was way different than the level here. And when I came here, I'm like, oh, it was even different. But once I went to Brazil, man, you have these favela kids that all they have is like one gi. It smells like shit. They can't wash it. You know, because when you train there, you train in the morning, and then by nighttime your gi's not dry, so it's still soaking wet and. Being in the Hunter Academy and training so hard with Marcio Coletta, you know, Mario Hayes, Fabricio Verdun, which is a UFC champion, amazing individuals with the team, and training, and then go to the window, puke out the window, go back on the mats, keep training again. And the intensity and the nonstop grind of it was like, you know, the best thing I can kind of relate it to is wrestling, the grind of wrestling, like wrestling practices are intense. So that was every day on the mats. The minute you stepped on the mats, it was intense. Yeah. So
yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. The culture over there with Brazil and the jiu-jitsu, is it big? I've never been to Brazil, and so it's always been on my bucket list. I just, you know, having a family and stuff like that, it slows everything down like that. Yeah. But going over there, how were you treated as a Canadian in jiu-jitsu?
Man,
you're fresh meat to them?
For sure, you're a gringo. I think the first time I went over there, I was a blue belt. Yeah. And man, it was just like you have a room. Like I would go to Gracie Hometa and Gracie Tajuca, you know, with Professor George Brito was there at the time. I don't think he was quite a black belt yet, and you know, Leticio Roberto and Morango was there, and you know, 30 other black belts on the mats. Yeah. And they're like, this gringo shows up. You know jiu-jitsu? No, you don't know jiu-jitsu. And I remember, man, and I gotta say, like, you know, you just take it, you know. Sometimes you're the nail, sometimes you're the hammer.
Yeah.
You know, you go down there, you're definitely the nail.
Yeah.
And that was the part of the learning process, man. It's a rite of passage to go down there, and you have to put your pride, and exactly like you said, you know, we think we're tough guys, and you go down there and you have some little kid from the favelas, and he's just choking you and you know, trying to break your shit right there. And you don't have a choice but to say, you know what, either you're going to give up or you're going to push through it, right? And I think that really shows a judge of character for people that, you know, they push through it. So
yeah. And it's I think with with jiu-jitsu in the sport, you have to submit. Otherwise, you are going to, and if you get choked out, or you're going to break your damn ankle. I mean, there's pride there.
Yeah.
But you got to think about, okay, my livelihood. I really got to think, okay,
do I like my arm?
Yeah, do I like my arm? Do I like, you know, being choked out? But I mean, you start to realize that you admit to, like, okay, I need to learn.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna keep myself safe now, but I know that you're better than me, and I have to learn. I'm gonna keep going, because I don't think any jiu-jitsu guys that get involved in the sport, you say, you know, I'm going to get tapped out and then I quit. Maybe some people win the first day, I don't know. But I think that, you know, it is a great learning experience, because adversity gets thrown at you right there on the mat.
Yeah.
And you have to exist. You either quit, you know, and get off the mat, or you stay and you keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, you know, and that's why I tell people about jiu-jitsu. It's more than a sport. It's more than an art. It's a way of life, because it's just like you said, adversity. Like in life, we always get dealt adversity every day of our life. And I think that jiu-jitsu, being in that and putting yourselves in those moments, really helps you deal with that adversity in our own lives, personally, outside of the gym, off the mats, you know. And I see a lot of people, like I met a guy, as amazing, meeting in the Masters I was telling you about before, and amazing guy, but just starting to learn jiu-jitsu, and you know, but you know, such an amazing thing, and lots of adversities in his life, and now, you know, and that's what happened. You know, he would go and train, and he got hurt, unfortunately, and you know, he's like, you know, he was kind of hesitant. And we had went up to the cottage with 6 of us this past weekend, and we brought the mats out. He said, "Man, we got to train." So
yeah,
and that was the first time he was on the mats for a while. And me and Professor Frank, you know, we just started to play around, show him some stuff, and now it kind of rekindled his. You know, he said, "Man, I really want to come back."
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, it's all about, like I said, adversity. You know, you can either decide to give up and do something else, or you move forward, right? And it's only going to make you stronger. So
exactly. You know, I think the athletic mindset, you know, it helps us out. Like you said, it transfers over to reality, right? And I shouldn't say reality, because the sport is reality, really, but over to life. You know, when I was injured, when I was hit by a car, and I had a post-concussion syndrome for a long time, never once did I have that, you know, mindset that I was going to give up. It was always like, okay, let's do the next thing. Let's go to the next thing. Let's go to the next thing. Go to the next thing. Yeah. I thought to myself, because I talked to other people that have been in similar situations, and where they get depressed, they want to quit, they start feeling sorry for themselves, because they're in this position. I think what jiu-jitsu and what wrestling has given me is that athlete mindset, whereas, you know what, things are bad, but I'm going to keep working. I think they call it now the growth mindset in school. Yeah, it's I mean, everybody, we all have stuff happen in life. You know, I'm going through stuff right now, and for me, it's like you just have to focus inside internally and just say, you know what, we're going to get through this. And you know, you go on the mats, you train, you work out, you stay healthy, and just exactly the same way. Keep that mindset of, you know, there's no sense of give up. What's the reason to give up? You know, it's like you're rolling. You know, you give up in rolling because of humility, because you're humble and you got caught, and it's exactly, you take it as a lesson, right? But you don't give up and just quit. It's a lesson. You either win or you learn. You never lose, right? That's the point. So. Exactly. I love that. And I think that's something that a lot of athletes should, and I think they realize that, but that's something they've got to really roll into their mental Rolodex. You just have to never give up, look at everything as a lesson, like you said. Yeah. Good. Now, we go on talking about all these guys that you know, and you know, maybe some people don't know them, but I mean, you're talking about, you know, a group of guys that are pioneers in this sport here in Canada. Yeah. You know, you stayed a long time friends with them. You went up to the cottage. What kind of like made that happen for you guys?
It's just, I mean, the college was kind of a different story. It was kind of like I was saying, it was a meeting of the masters. A good friend of mine used to be a pro hockey player,
Okay.
and he no longer is or whatever. Now he studies therapy and helps people get through difficult times and meditation and whatnot. And I think that through the group of his friends, like we had a gentleman that was, a big time producer and production and just like Cole was amazing. And then Mike was a mixologist and owned mini bars and was very intelligent. And, myself and Professor Frank, training. And and then Luke and another, like one of the top poker players in the world.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know three of them since that day before.
Oh, okay.
And it was just funny to see kind of put that mix of people together and see, share each other's stories.
Yeah.
And because they were all from different perspectives.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, we were all kind of searching for the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that's kind of something that I think I see that on the mats every day as a professor.
Yeah.
Because you have all different types of walks of life, different ages. I have kids from 4 years old all the way to 60 years old. And everybody's there for their own reason.
Yeah.
But I think that sharing that on the mats and and putting the pride at the door and having humility and you can see the growth of people getting through that through jiu-jitsu. So it's pretty awesome.
Pride at the door. It's always been, I guess, check your ego sort of thing. I think that's wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Everybody asks you that, but you do get somebody that comes through that door, and they have that ego. What do you do with a student like that?
Yeah, you know what? Most of the time you can see it right away. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, and you can tell right away the person that kind of has that. And it's just subtle lessons that you teach them. And usually, for the most part, I think it's insecurity on their part for sure, being like that.
Yeah.
And you find their insecurities very fast until they expose them, and then once they get that, it's kind of like they are at that point where they're not a true jiu-jitsu or athlete or have that mindset that we've grown to make us who we are today, and they'll leave.
Yeah.
They'll leave. They'll give up. They'll quit.
Yeah.
And that's it's. I've never had to choke anybody out and drag them out the back. At least only in bars have I ever done that, but never in the dojo. I've had gentlemen come in and try to steal people's stuff in the change room, which was funny, happened a couple of years ago.
Oh wow!
And I gave them option. Like I could handle that a lot of different ways, right? I told him you have an option. You can leave out the front door, you can leave out the back door, or I can call the cops, right? So you're going to make me walk out the back door all the way to the front? I don't think he understood that if he walks out the back door, he's not walking anywhere after that, right? And then at the end of the day, I just, he understood that, hey, I'm giving you options, right?
Yeah.
I could have been a lot different. I know a lot of people that they would have never given him options. That would have been it. He probably would have been leaving in an ambulance for sure. And I think that's the way and the attitude, the way you should treat people, give people options to make the right choices, right? Because maybe they're there for a reason, for whatever reason they are. Give them choices to say, what, okay, and then hopefully they make the right choice, right?
Yeah.
So
you talk about giving people choices, right? And that's about you. That's about you. How you've grown. How was that journey for you? As you were, I guess, developing this mindset or this style of thinking, where you're just kind of like, what? I'm not gonna cross the line. I'm not gonna get into violence. I don't have to. Because, again, remember we talked earlier about those guys with egos, that the first kind of, they just, boom, they're going to go in and they're going to start smashing.
Yeah.
Was it martial arts that brought you to that?
Well, I'll tell you honestly, I'll give you a little bit of my backstory.
Okay.
Where I kind of had to hit the crossroads was I started training when I was 11, and when I turned 18, my mother was kidnapped and killed. And at that point, I just had a decision that was like, I'm either gonna, the day that I was at the hospital, I already had a hit on the guy. So there was 3 individuals, and I'm like, I just want them dead. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
And and then I said, you know what? No, leave that. I said, let's leave it in God's hands. And I obviously went through a lot. 2 years, that was the only time in my life I ever stopped training. 2 years, I was basically drinking and, going down a bad path, getting involved in bad people, getting in fights all the time for, obviously trying to get out my aggression. And I got to a point, and I can't remember the exact time or day, but I just realized that I'm either going to end up dead or in jail, or I'm going to go back to training again, because that was somewhere that was always my peace. My parents were divorced, and I would always go back and forth, and I knew that was always my consistency in life, was being on the mats training, and I made that decision to go back and train martial arts again, and that's why I tell everybody, jiu-jitsu saved my life, martial arts saved my life, and it's not a sad story. It's a story of adversity, like we talked about, and choice. I had to give myself a choice. Now I offer other people choices, and I always have to give myself a choice every day too. When I wake up in the morning, you can have this attitude or you can have this attitude, no matter how bad life gets. And for me, I think that's what I've reflected on, especially over the last little while. I've been going through a lot on that was the point in my life where I had to make that decision. So now I'm at this point in my life that because of that, I need to start to make that decision again for me to go in the right direction.
Yeah. You were 11 years old when that happened.
I was 18, actually.
Oh, 18.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was 18.
Okay. You started training when you were 11.
I started training when I was 11, yeah.
So 18. Even at 18 years of age, something like that to happen. I mean, of course, you're going to try to deal with it in so many ways. And, 18, it sounded like you were on your own. Yeah. And you're going to choose what's in front of you because you don't know how to deal with it. Yeah. Thank goodness jiu-jitsu was in your life, or training was in your life to get you back to that and save you from that lifestyle that could have ultimately, like you said, put you in jail or, who knows what. Right? Yeah. I mean, I guess just like you said, jiu-jitsu saved your life. Yeah. I didn't know that about you, and I thank you for sharing that because that's tough. And again, like going back to jiu-jitsu and the adversity, and it's probably polished you off a little bit more because of that, right? Like you've handled that kind of stress. Now you've been in jiu-jitsu, it gives you more, I guess.
Yeah, every day on the mats. Every day on the mats, doesn't matter. White belt, black belt, whatever it is, you're there training. Even if you're not training and you're teaching, somebody asks you questions and you're like, there's so many different ways to answer it. And it forces you to always be, cognitive and conscious of everything, right? Like one thing that I'm learning now is, going through the spiritual journey that I'm on is to live in the moment. And that's that there was actually a YouTube video years ago, and one of the gentlemen had said, jiu-jitsu is the most beautiful thing in the world because it forces you to live in the moment. When somebody's trying to strangle you unconscious or break your arm, you have no choice but to think about that immediate threat. And that's what's happening in your life. And I think that what I've learned in the last little while is, the past is the past. It's gone. So why are you holding on to the past? You have to let it go, right? Yeah. I believe that I have to deal with stuff that happened in the past to help me grow in the future. And why think about the future? Because you don't know what the future holds. Yeah. We have no idea, right? So just live for the moment. Right? Yeah. Like every day, and your attitude should be, you get up in the morning, and I was in the gym this morning, and I'm like thinking about my day, and I'm like, no, let's think about what's going on in the gym and say, hey, go say hi, go pull, and it just was a different feeling. I don't know. So, and that's what jiu-jitsu is. Every day you're on the mats. You go in, slap hands, punch fists, pay your respect to your partner, and you go and you just live in the moment.
I've never heard of that terminology before, and living in the moment, and then you're talking about, you got to focus on those things at the moment. Man, it's pretty, it's a life lesson, like right in that, and like yourself, you got to think about what's in the moment. You can't worry about losses. And so many times that we always go back and we think about losses, or we think about what happens to us in the past, and we dwell and we never make progress because of that. I mean, it's good to learn from mistakes and even losses, right? But if we dwell and we dwell on it, as an athlete, you don't move forward. Yeah. But even as you said, as you go into your own life, you don't move forward either. So you have to also, and the same thing, right? You have to look at your losses. What you did, because if you look at your losses, you learn from them, they're not losses anymore. They're lessons, like you said. So if you take the same thing into your life, and this is what you're saying, I'm just paraphrasing. Yeah, of course. Right? Is that you're saying that, mistakes in the past, if you just leave them as mistakes in the past, they're losses. But if you make something out of them, they become lessons, and then they become so much more valuable. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's like I said, I've been on this spiritual journey in the last little while, and and it's really making me start to look at things differently. I'm at the point in my life now where I'm, I enjoy my life. I love my life. I have a beautiful family, and I have beautiful kids, and and it's the same thing. It's like we were recently just on vacation, and just to say, get caught up in everything that's going on in your life with the business, and I don't want to talk to nobody. All I want to do is focus on my children, focus on my family, and live in that moment, right? And realize, and it was a moment that I had clarity where growing up, I grew up poor, and I had never been on a beach until I was probably in my 30s. And I sat there and I watched my son and my daughter, 4 years old and now 10 today. Actually, it's her birthday. Happy birthday, Leah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And have them sit there and playing in the sand and just having like a complete serenity. I'm like, man, it brought tears to my eyes, because I never had that as a kid, and I was able to give that opportunity to them. And it's something that I wish I would have had, but I gave that to them. So it was something that was, it just knew as me as an individual, as a father, as a husband, as a parent, that I felt pretty proud. So it was good. It was a proud moment.
That's awesome. I think it's pretty hard for people, or even we get, I guess, distracted by life.
Yeah,
it gets in the way. And then we don't pay attention to the little things that are in front of us. We take things for granted, and we say, what I liked about your story is that you've got total focus on family. Yeah. And it's the distractions. You could be like, I want to go train jiu-jitsu over here. I want to do this over here. We're in this guy's area here, so I really want to. I want to hang out with this guy. No, you're about family. You're like, bang.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to talk about jiu-jitsu. I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about you, and you have. You create a better relationship with your family, with your kids, and I'm sure like dad, like they're gonna just look at you, and they love attention from you. Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is, right?
Yeah. It's just a recent clarity that I've kind of, and I was always like that. I have a million things to do in the day. I run a tattoo shop, I run a design business, I run an MMA gym. I got to train myself. There's all these things. I have a schedule, blah blah blah, and and then you stop. And I just realized over the last little while, like it's the little things that you need to focus on, because they're the most important.
Yeah.
And it's just been almost an awakening in the last little since.
Yeah.
And now moving forward, and not saying to look to the future, but living in the present every moment, I think about that. It's little things. So I think that people need to look at that, and because life is so crazy, especially in the Western world here, we're like go 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 go. Yeah. Even moving from out west to out here, like completely different lifestyle.
Really?
If you've been to BC or Alberta's not bad, but BC is everybody's like slow mo. It's a different thing. Not because everybody's high. Probably maybe 60% of the people are probably smoked up. But yeah, you come out here, and I remember from the day I got out here, it was like, hey, go 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 go, and it's not a bad thing. It's just about control, right? It's about step on the gas, but know your limit. Right? Yeah. You step on the gas, blah blah blah. Then that's when stuff goes sideways fast. So.
Yeah, I noticed that with moving up here from Toronto. I'm from London, Ontario. Originally. So coming here, man, it was like, what is this place, man? This is crazy. Yeah. Now it wasn't as relaxed. I have been to BC out. I think it was for the Abu Dhabi North American trials. Beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okanagan Valley.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And I wish I could move there, but of course that's another story. But. Slow paced, really relaxed. Even on the highway, for Christ's sake. If you drive here in Toronto and you drive there, you're gonna have a headache.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that transition too. I guess that must have been a little bit stressful coming here. And why did you make the move from BC to here?
Well, so originally when I got out of school, just shortly after that happened, that's when I was in BC, and then I moved back to Alberta. When I moved out here, my best friend was already out here training, and we ended up fighting on the same event. And he came out. He stayed with me for a couple of weeks, and at that time I had broken up with my girlfriend. And again, it was a repetitive pattern of the story that I kind of told you about before, and taking it as a loss and not a lesson, right? And I just made a decision. I was either going to go to the Lion's Den. I was going to train with John Lewis, or I was going to come out here. And I figured, you know what? I knew him since I was like 14 years old. Yeah. And I decided to come out here. And that's, that was the best thing that I ever did in my life. I sold everything. I had a Mercedes. I had everything I had. I sold. I had 2 duffel bags, and I jumped on a plane. Nice. I can remember being on the Bloor line and getting off at Lansdowne and Bloor with 2 duffel bags. I'm like, where am I? Wow. And you know what? It's okay. Sometimes you got to be scared, right? I mean, if you're not scared, you're not alive. So, I just started training, and once I was on the mats, it didn't matter where I was. Yeah. I could have been in Alberta. I could have been in Brazil, wherever I was. Yeah. I was on the mats. I'm like, that was that serenity.
Yeah, wrestling, but jiu-jitsu is, when I went into the first dojo, I went combat arts. Okay, yeah. And, very welcoming community. Yeah. Very welcoming. So it must have been great to have friends already established here, but then to get into the room and have those guys to really say, hey, you're new, we'll take care of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's you find probably in wrestling world as it is in jiu-jitsu, it's a rite of passage, right? You come in, I'm the new guy, I'm the gringo here, right? Yeah. And you step on the mats, and you got these guys that have the life. This is their passion of their life, right? This is who they are, and they test you. They would say, hey man, you want to be part of us? You gotta hang, right? So, and it's like, for me at that point, after I had been through what I'd been through with my mom, I said, I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna push through it, because I know that the clouds are just gonna keep clearing, and eventually, I can look at a beautiful sky, and enjoy that, and then soak that in and live in that moment.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Jiu-Jitsu has done so much for you, it sounds like. I'm sitting here talking to you, learning some of the stuff. I mean, I don't think we've ever had an in-depth conversation like this. I mean, we're on the mats, we bump the fist, and then we roll. Yeah. But, I don't think we've ever sat down. And when considering you for the podcast, it was like, okay, well, he's a Sylvio Behring guy, let's bring him in. I knew from the college, he seemed like a, outstanding individual there. And you invited me into your dojo, and when you didn't have to, right? And never charged me when I was there. So thank you. But I mean, I forget where I was going with that. Geez, that's what happens every now and then on this podcast, because I just get...
No, the train will be by soon. It's okay. Yeah, I mean, it's the journey that I share with everybody, and that's the way I look at it, is I look at being blessed to be able to be a part of your journey, sitting having a conversation with you, that maybe something that I say or something makes you look at things a little differently, and vice versa, right? Mm-hmm. I believe that everybody has their own journey, and you share that with each individual. Mm-hmm. And, I've been blessed to have people like yourself in my life, and the guys at the college, and all the friends I grew up with, even from back home. A lot of them I don't know now because they got lost, or they're dead now, or but I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the stuff that happened in my life where my best friend, he's not alive anymore, but there was a lot of stuff growing up as lessons and fun stories, when you didn't have any cares in the world, right? Yeah. There was never really too much consequence back then. To now, like spending the day with my kids is it's amazing. And just have to appreciate every moment of with everybody,
Yeah. As we get older and older, we're kind of forced to look at those things. Yeah. But hey, it's good, because you start to enjoy the little things in life, right? That make you happy. And when you concentrate on the little things that make you happy, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they flourish, right? Absolutely. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm glad you're doing it, because, it sounds like, and I hope it works out, because, I can tell you, you're focused on family. Family's going to flourish. Doesn't matter. You're paying attention to them, and you show them that you're loved. The kids will appreciate that. Anybody that shows that you're showing that you're being loved is going to appreciate that, right? Because if it wasn't happening before, or not happening, but it wasn't to the extent that you want it to, hey man, it's you're doing 100% better than before, right?
Yeah, so, I think everybody grows. If if you're not learning, you're not growing. It's not even learning, whether it's jiu-jitsu techniques or lessons in life. Yeah. Sometimes you get, like I said, we get caught up, especially in the world that we live in. Mm-hmm. It's easy to get caught up. You get in, you start training, you roll on the mats, and it's like, it can be craziness. It's where you just need to say, hey, let's bring it down a notch, and being able to deal with adversity through jiu-jitsu and martial arts. You can handle those situations. The faster the questions come at you, the faster you have to answer them. That's all. As long as you know the answers, you're good, right? Yeah. If you don't know the answer to the question, then that's it. You're going to sleep, or something's happening, right? So, and it forces you to try to deal with that in life, because life can get crazy and fast. And I think that's a beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu and martial arts is it really helps you to slow things down.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your gym, Matador MMA. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's the correct title.
Yeah.
I'm not butchering it in any way.
No.
Okay. Where is it? Because if somebody wants to come out and join, of course they're going to watch this and go, "Where is this guy? I need to know where he is. Where is it located?" What are the classes like?
We're in Woodbridge, Ontario, 5875 Highway 7 in Woodbridge. We've been open for, I guess it'll be almost 15 years now, 14 years. I was originally teaching for other clubs at the time, and I met my wife, and we decided to open up Matador. Actually, I had left because I had a bad experience when I was teaching with somebody that ran the club, and it didn't work out, and because of my martial mindset, I didn't want to be a part of what was happening outside of that, and I decided to just, I'm going to focus on my tattooing because I'm a tattoo artist as well for 22 years.
Okay.
And so we just opened up a little tiny tattoo shop, and then what happened was, all my students that used to be my students for the other place started coming to me, said, "You're my professor. I want to learn from you. I don't want to learn from everybody else." So it was cool to see that, like for me, I'm a very loyal person, and I think that that's one attribute that a lot of people forget these days, especially because of MMA. I'm going to train here, I'm going to train there, I'm going to train here. They're very low. I love you to train and learn from everybody, right? But if you're part of my family, you're part of my family, right? And I'm not going to ever stop you. If you want to learn from somebody, you can learn something from somebody. Go. The doors are always open, right? If you want to be on this journey with me, and vice versa, then you'll be here with me. That's all. If you don't, then your journey takes you somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they all started coming, and we were there for a year. There was holes all over the wall because I had 20, 30 guys trying to roll in a 20 by 20 room, and so we moved into another place, a bigger space, and that went really well. And then we moved into a bigger space. Now we're here. So, and it keeps growing and keeps evolving. The one thing that I can say is, I have a lot of black belts that have been with me right from the beginning. And for me, that's very special because they've shared their lives with me for at least 10 years, some 15 years, some even longer because they've been with me before that. And it's pretty cool. They're like family. So
nice.
For me, for Matador, we do Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, grappling, wrestling. Like we do everything there. I have a wrestling coach there now, so
nice.
So a little props to wrestling for
there
sure. It's definitely a tough class, and we have Anastasia there. She's a professional MMA fighter, amazing instructor.
Okay.
And she's providing a women's program, so we do women's program, self-defense programs. We offer huge discounts for any first responders. I also work with a company called The Haven, and we're a charity foundation for all first responders for PTSD.
Awesome.
So, just raising money, I help to raise money for them, and so they can supply therapy for first responders that have, PTSD. And that's the point. I think that I facilitated, or we facilitated something just to help people. And at the same time, it's helping us as well. So, man, it's a win-win.
Yeah, and that's a great lesson to be teaching your athletes, too. That mindset where you're helping other people, and it's not just about you, right? You're as much as we are in the jiu-jitsu room that we focus on ourselves, like I want the next stripe, I want the next belt. Come on, professor, give me the next belt, right? It teaches that, there's other people out in your life or in the world, and let's respect them. Let's get them the help they need too. So I think that lesson there, and I don't know if you thought about that before, but as you're talking, I'm like, yeah, that's a great lesson because you create a greater bond between, and sometimes I think the way you were describing it is as a family almost, right? Yeah. They're not just clients, they're not just members. You become more of a family when you share experiences like that, which is awesome. So thank you for that, especially with PTSD. That's really close to my heart because of my profession, and I have a couple friends that have suffered through that and committed suicide as a result of that. So I appreciate the support and what you're doing for us. I didn't know that about you as well. So these long form conversations are so great, man. Yeah. So, are you on social media?
Yeah, just MatadorMMA.com.
Okay.
Matador Mixed Martial Arts. It's all in there. We're on Instagram. We're not on Twitter. I don't think we're on Twitter, but we're on Instagram, Facebook. Obviously the website. So. MatadorMMA.com or Matador MMA on any social media platforms, and we're there for sure. I'm always there. My tag is Jesse Richardson 72. So if anybody has any questions or wants to come in, the doors are always open for anybody and everybody.
Awesome. Why 72?
That's my year I was born.
Okay,
Yeah.
same with mine. That's why I was asking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
1972. It's my favorite year, to tell you the truth, because I was just born, but I think back to it. My dad was at the Olympic Games that year in Munich, and he was when the shooting happened. There's only thing that separated him and the hostage taking was actually two thin walls of drywall. That was it. He was there, and of course, not being at the time during social media or phones or like that, my mom saw that on TV and was scared crapless because she was thinking dad's never going to come back. Now she's got to raise these kids. So that was because I know I digressed a little bit, but because 72, pretty cool.
It's
awesome. When were you born? 72?
October.
October, okay. I was trying to get closer to that's me. I'm May.
So, so you're a little bit older then. It's all good. We still we don't look 51. So that's okay.
No, we don't age because of jiu-jitsu, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on the show, Jesse. Man, that was great. Just learning more about you, and I'm hoping our listeners listen in and listen to your story, and hey, even come out and meet you at the club. Get a membership and experience jiu-jitsu. And even if it's not with Jesse's club, and if you have got a club near you, I know people ask me all the time, where can I train? Where can I train? Yeah. Just get on the internet, look, and find a place for you, because it's going to help you out. We talked about just the mental aspect of training and stuff like that, how it's helped you, guide you through some huge bouts of adversity. Yeah. So thanks again for coming on the show, folks. Do me a favor, subscribe, get on our YouTube channel, punch that like button, leave a comment for myself or Jesse, so that we know you're out there, and we'll try to respond as well. But I want to thank you again for coming on the show, and again, thank you for what you're doing for first responders, and keep up the great work. I'll be watching you, and next time Sylvio's in town, let me know, and we'll hang out.
Yeah, he'll be coming in April, brother. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome.